Hello, Macaron pop, and welcome to the Macaron tutorial. Macarons, not that easy to make, and they do take a bit of training, but hopefully you'll see this video and this is the way I make macarons. I mean, you can have, the recipes are pretty much the same if you get macaron box. It's just a sort of variations on styles and different ways of prepping it. But it's usually just 4 main ingredients, which I'll go through. I have put one extra ingredient in the recipe, and that was a pinch of cream of tartar, just to help your meringue. If you're having difficulties with meringue, this will give you a bit more volume in the meringue and make it firmer. But you don't have to put that in, that's sort of an optional. But I'll try and go through it as best I can. I'm going to go through the equipment that you're going to need, that I find that are kind of essential, and also the equipment that I actually use myself, because I prefer to use these sort of things. You don't have to do that. I will just go through everything as I can as we go through it. It's not an easy thing to sort of teach without you kind of being there for the piping side of it. And the sort of consistency you kind of look for in a macaron, but hopefully the video will just sort of give you a step-by-step guide, and I've written as much as I can on the recipe for you. Again, you can get the recipe on my website. Yes, I think it's already up there anyway, so feel free to go and have a look, and if you need it emailing to, just DM me with your email address and I'll get it to you. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to show you the equipment that we're going to use and what we need to do to prepare our delicious macarons. Again, new oven, not used this oven before. I've only got one baking tray, so for the purpose of this demo I'm going to explain that I can only make one tray. Unfortunately, the mix doesn't last for you to sort of pipe again, because the macarons won't come out. You can use it up, but the macarons won't come out the same. They won't rise as well if you're waiting and then go to use the mixture again. So cooker, I'll go through, and I think tray, and I'll just go for the equipment that you're going to need. Right, so the things you're going to need, if possible, and if you do have it, a food processor. And the reason we're going to use this is just to blend up the icing sugar and ground almonds. So food processor, a mixer. It can be done by hand, but you'll find with the mixer you can get more volume into the egg whites. But you can, if you're going to use egg whites and sugar, then you can do it by hand. It's a longer process. So ideally this, but failing if you haven't got a food processor, you will have to mix it by hand quite vigorously, the almonds and the icing sugar, and then you'll have to pass it through a sieve. Doing it this way is a lot easier, and I never pass mine through a sieve, and they come out fine. You'll need piping bags, piping nozzles of various sizes, but usually I'm going to use a number 8 for this one because I'm going to do some small macarons. But yeah, so that's a number 8 piping nozzle, and this one, I think this is size 10 or 11. It doesn't say, and I won't be using that one because that's way too big. And this is what I'll be using for when I'm piping around the macaron with the white chocolate whip and the filling, which is, what was it, salted caramel, once they're cooked. So you need a scraper for your dough when you're mixing in. If you haven't got a scraper, you can make them out of any lids, I don't know, plastic, any sort of plastic. It needs to be that shape really, so you can scoop round. I don't use this though. I used to use this, but because I'm also allergic to egg, so I try not to stay away from the egg as much as I can. I don't like to get it on my hands, so I wear gloves, but I use a whisk. and this works really well for me, as long as your folding technique is good. But with this mix you can be quite vigorous with your mixture. You need scales, you need a tray that is lined with parchment, must be lined, and if you can, avoid bits sticking out the top like this, because if you've got a fan assisted oven, what happens is that the air goes underneath and it causes it to lift up, and you'll lose some of your macarons, or not all of them. Again, with this oven I'm not sure how it's going to work, so we're going to test it. Piping bags, yeah, okay. Scales you need. So ingredient and food colouring, if you've got any. I've not tried this one before. This is a paste. I usually use powdered colouring in mine, but water soluble, because it just works better. With this one, I will add this when I've made my meringue afterwards, and I'll just add a little bit just to see if I don't want my meringue to collapse. So I'll just do that. Also, I have got so caster sugar. I've got icing sugar, and I've got the almonds, and I've got my egg whites, and I just take them out so it brings them up to room temperature. It just finds it aerates a lot faster. You can do it out of the fridge, but yeah, I just find it aerates a lot faster at room temperature. Okay, so that's all the ingredients. So to start with, I'm going to put my ground almonds in there with my sugar, my icing sugar. That's to get it as fine as I possibly can. Make sure they're both incorporated. And I'm going to give that a good blitz, but try not to, if you can, over blitz it, because you don't want it to sort of form together. It's just you can pulse it, that would be ideal. So so that's what I'm going to do. There we go. I'm going to take it off. I'm just going to give it a little shake. Just make sure when you're doing this, I just go around the sides like that. Make sure your ground almonds are in. If you have got powdered colour, you'd put it in at this stage. Okay, so again, see they're nicely blended. Don't know if you can see that. So keep doing this. Just going to do it once more, just make sure I've got all my almonds together. Keep forgetting to turn it on. Okay, so the next part, well, before I go into that, you'll just see here that it's a nice fine crumb. Just make sure it's nice and lump free, okay, and it's well blended. That's your icing sugar and ground almonds. Right, so yeah, next bit's the meringue. So make sure everything is super clean. There's no fat or residue left on from your last previous mixes or whatever. Make sure everything's nice and clean. We're going to add the egg whites, and then we're going to whisk away. quite a high, slow at start, just to get the air going and circulating, and then we'll speed up the process in a minute. One thing I did forget to mention is cream of tartar. If you are using cream of tartar, you want to put that in. That goes in with your egg whites at the start, before you start whisking. So just a small pinch of cream of tartar will give you good volume in your egg whites and stabilise your egg whites as well. Okay, this has been coming up to the time to add the sugar, but I like to make sure it's a nice firm peak before I add the sugar, because we don't want it to collapse back down. If it's not firm peak, it will just collapse in on itself and you'll end up with a runny meringue. And again, try not to over whip, because then that won't be any good either. So just a little at a time. And you can see that's going to make a nice stiff meringue. So we're just going to let it go for a minute. And now I've got the colour, I'm going to add this now. I don't know what effect, I'm hoping it's not going to have too much effect. Actually, I'm going to leave it. I'm going to do that while I'm mixing. So just turn it up. Okay. And that is our meringue done. And again, you see it's nice. It's a good, nice meringue. Okay. Right, so at this point we've got our meringue, we've got our mixed icing sugar and almonds, and I've got my colour. So because this is a liquid, I'm not going to put it into there because it might affect the meringue, so I'm going to add it as I'm mixing. I seem to got it all over my fingers. Right, so here we are at the mixing stage. Again, if you've got, you can use a scraper of some sort, or even you can use one of these to scrape round. It's up to you. But this is the way I do it. So first off, I put a little bit of this in. I'm going to make a little bit of like a starter paste, as it were. So I think of this. Like that. Okay. So it's kind of just starting things off. I think at this stage I'm going to put my colour in. Okay, so a nice purple, or pastel-y purple by the looks of it. I'll add a little bit more. Right, so and now we go a bit more heavy. Ideally have a bigger bowl, but these are the only bowls I've got. Okay. As you see, I'm not being too light, I'm being quite heavy. And what I'll do at the end is I will make sure that the consistency is right, because that's very, very important. Okay, so I'm just adding a bit, meringue bits, dry. I'm just mixing them together. Okay, looking good. Again, meringue, not all of it. Equal quantities of each as you're going. It's quite important that you get that right. Good consistency. Okay, I'm just going to add my last bit now, and the last of my meringue. Get that kryptonite out of the way. So this time I'm just going to fold in gently. Make sure you're going from the bottom as well. Don't want any dry bits in your meringue. Just going to give it a quick blitz like that, and that's, I think we're there. So you can see it's good. So it should just hopefully, when you pipe as well, give you a nice finish. Okay, yeah, I'll say that's it. That's basically the way I mix things up, make my macaron mix. Okay, just to make sure. Okay, just making sure at the bottom. That's it, all done. So, the tricky bit is now, could have done with a bit more colour in there, but I didn't want to risk it with being a liquid. The tricky bit now is obviously the piping of the macaron. I haven't allowed it to sit for ages, because you want to work with it as soon as you possibly can. Try not to overfill your bag. You don't want it all peeing out the top, and unfortunately these bags aren't the best, but hey, we work with what we've got. Okay, so piping, not everyone can do it, and if you can get it to the same size, then that's the best thing we can hope for. So it's been a while for me, but here I go. Okay, and then I kind of go in the middle. Yep. Just like that. Okay, maybe we can get a couple of small ones here. Right, so at this stage, so I'm going to tap it. Okay, just to get some of the air bubbles out from inside, very important as well. Okay, because I haven't got an ultimately flat tray, you can see it's just sort of bending a little bit. So, but yeah, at this stage I'm now going to leave it for about 15 minutes, and then we're going to shove them in the oven. Okay, they've sat now for just over 15 minutes, so it's time to put them in the oven. Hopefully this oven's not going to blow them everywhere, but yeah, fingers crossed. But I shall be watching very, very closely. The oven's at 120, by the way. 120. think they're going to be alright. I'm also putting them in for, I'm going to say 20 minutes. I will check them around the 18-minute mark, just to make sure that they're working properly and rising properly. Right, so the macarons, they worked, but they didn't work the best. Some of them deformed, unfortunately, like that. As you can see, I think you can see that it's got a foot, but then on the other side it didn't work. So we've got a few good ones, so we'll just go ahead and do the fillings for them. Just making sure we've got the right sizes for them all. That will work. That one, we'll go with that one. Okay, so what I've got here is the white chocolate whip that we made. When did we make that? A couple of days ago. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to whisk it. I usually use the KitchenAid for that, but I'm going to do it by hand just to show you. So I'm just going to loosen it up a little bit. Can you see that? Yep. Just loosen it up slightly before I add the cream. So as you see, just loosen it up with a whisk. So I'm going to use Elm Lee because it's good for not splitting out. It's a bit more stable than cream. So just keep working it. What we're looking for is a nice texture, and it will double up. You just add volume to it by whisking it. You can use double cream if you've got some lying around, or you've got some spare. Look at that. Oh, it's beautiful. And it just tastes amazing. So you beat that until it's firm. So I did my white chocolate whip. That's in a piping bag in the fridge, which is here. So when I need to use it, we'll grab it out. And then what we've got here is the salted caramel. And as you can see, look at that. That is gorgeous. And that's what your consistency should be like after you made it, as long as you haven't overcooked it or split it out. I mean, if it does split out while you're cooking it, you can re-emulsify it with a hand blender just to bring it back, or you can pour the whole lot into a food process and just blitz it for a bit. Just be careful, as it's going to be really hot. But yeah, so just a bit of this into a piping bag. We don't need it all, not that much, okay? Because we're only going to fill the centres of those. Right, so I've kind of filled one for you, just so you can see. There we go. That's your macaron. Okay, so that's white chocolate whip and salted caramel. I'm just going to go and fill the rest of these, so you can see. With everything, I like to be nice and neat and tidy. So you go around the edge, not right to the edge of each one. Okay, and you can see I've lined each one up to make sure they fit. And yes, I've got a shaky hand because one had too many drinks last night. Way too many. you can see we've got some deformed ones, but you know, we're not going to waste them at this point. But piping, you know, it does take a little bit of practice. Okay, so with that, and then this salted caramel, then goes bop in the middle. Bop in the middle. Okay, but before, so, and then you just close them together. Simple as that. With a little twist. Okay. And I know somebody who's going to really enjoy these. Okay, I'll fill the rest. So there we have it. Macarons. Can you see that? Yeah. So, right. So that's it. Nice plate full of macarons. Although I could have done more if I had more trays, but that's just the way it goes. Thanks for joining me. I hope you got an understanding of how the process works. Not ideal in this kitchen, but you know, I just get used to the oven and the next batch will be better, and you just got to keep working at it. But yeah, no, I think they came out okay. Lucas is going to polish them off, I'm sure. So again, thanks for joining me. Not sure what I want to do next. Probably a cake of some sort, or yeah, probably a cake. I like a bit of a lemon drizzle cake, so that will be the next one I expect. Stay safe, keep clean, and I'll see you next time.